So we have a white woman who is going to talk about how safe she feels when she's in all black spaces, but actually experienced some semblance of what it's like for a black person in an all white space. Take a look.
I've never felt unsafe in black spaces. This is how we know reverse racism is a lie. I went to college on Long Island, and I lived in Hempstead, New York. Very black town. I used to go to Caribbean night at my local bar. Never had a problem. Never felt unsafe. I was just at a barbecue joint in Harlem the other week with a group of white girlfriends, lily white girls. We felt completely welcome, delightful. Had a great meal, super fun time. Never once did anybody give me a stink eye or a dirty look or make me feel like I didn't belong in those spaces. Never once was I concerned for my safety. But I was on the national tour of a children's show called The Olympic Spirit. And this show was about Jesse Owens being in the Olympics, who of course was a black athlete. So we had a black actor in the cast portraying Jesse Owens. And we toured the Deep South, baby. I'm talking about Alabama, Arkansas, Mississippi. And it was a bus and truck tour. It wasn't fancy Broadway stuff. We played schools. So one night our van pulls into this local rest stop. It was like Pete's Chicken. And it had a gas station, which we needed gas. And Jamal and I walk into Pete's Chicken to get a little snack and to use the restroom because we were on the road. And when I tell you, every white face in that place whipped around and looked at us when we walked in together. Now, we weren't together. We were just two friends, colleagues. But he was black and I was white. And I felt the hairs stand up on the back of my neck. And I know he felt it too, because I looked over at him and I was like, this feels off. This feels weird. What's happening? And he goes, yep, let's go. I don't want to get lynched here. The only time in my life I have felt unsafe was in a white space because they identified me in proximity to a black man and they did not like it. And I felt it in my bones. That was a formative experience for me. And it's why I like to talk about Black history in these United States, because it's not ancient history. It is still very much alive.
Yeah, she talked about all of the places she lived and all of the spots that she went to and ate the food and enjoyed the culture and never felt unsafe. Why? Because that's how we are. We mind our black business. We're not trying to discriminate them. We don't bother them as long as they don't bother us, right? So she was feeling great. And let's just face it, the folks are always in our spaces, in our restaurants, in our, musical entertainment establishments. They're everywhere, right? They go in and they feel very comfortable and safe. Not to mention the fact that a lot of them are in relationships with black men, so they feel extra safe. So they'll go into spaces with their black man and their biracial babies, and, everybody embraces them, right? But it wasn't until she went, as she said, they're part of a tour of a show on the life of Jesse Owens, and they were in the Deep South, right? Lots of sundown towns there. And they went into an establishment where it was all white people, including her. And then she was accompanied by a black man. She says his name is Jamal, and he was part of this show. And the way that people were just eyeing them down, like, what are you doing here? A, what's the black man doing here? And what are you doing here, white woman? B, with this black man? You should know better than that. It's about to be some trouble. And that black man immediately identified. Okay, so Jamal was like, we need to go out of here because I'm not trying to get lynched. She says the hairs on the back of her head stood up because she actually felt what was, happening. She felt the air in the room. She felt the energy, right? And so that's the first time that she is saying that she has felt unsafe. And it wasn't in a black establishment. It was in an all-white establishment. Well, what I will say to this woman is, welcome to our world. And you just experiencing stares, and that caused the hairs on the back of your neck to stand up. Can you imagine? I'm sure she sees everything that goes on against our people. I'm sure she has, seen some sort of anti black racism that's happened. I'm sure this isn't the first time she's experienced that. The difference is it was so blatant and in her face because she was, as she said, in close proximity of a black man in a white space. Oftentimes they don't see this, or they choose not to. They choose to be ignorant to it, even if it's slapping them in the face. But in this case, she was exposed to it because he was the only person in the room, and they were very clear with their stares, right? But this goes on all the time. And it's important for the folks to really be able to recognize it without it having to be so polarizing before they realize, oh, this is really a thing, right? And she says that this is why she talks about Black history, because she's trying to, I guess, outline the fact that it's not something from yesteryear. It's something that still happens. But again, I say, well, they know it. Oftentimes they just don't want to recognize it, and they don't want to admit it. They don't want to feel uncomfortable. They don't want their children to feel uncomfortable by knowing the history of our people, or knowing the education, or educating themselves, pardon me, about our history, and even just seeing it as it's happening in real time and being able to say, yeah, you know what, this is racist. They struggle with that. Maybe I shouldn't say struggle. They just don't want to accept it, right? So this woman, I appreciate her calling it out. I appreciate her saying she identifies it. I just wonder, talking about it is one thing. Sure, you want to educate your people, because we as Black people, we know our history for the most part. But I just always wonder, what else would you have done if you walked into that establishment and something more than a stare happened, like an anti-Black slur was hurled at this man, or she was approached by one of the folks and said, what are you doing bringing this, N-word in here? How would she have handled it? Would she have been willing to really stand up for this Black man and, I guess, sacrifice her white privilege card? I always wonder, because it's always great that, they want to talk about our history, and they want to educate people, and they want to rock with us, and they want to, hang out with us and eat with us and marry us and all of that other stuff. But to all of the folks who are involved with Black people or in Black spaces that are all Black, and you feel so comfortable, in addition to talking about our history, do you want to also talk about the importance of your people to stop being anti-Black racists, and continue actually to share your experiences of how safe you feel with Black people, and the difference in the way that we treat y'all when you enter into our spaces and the way y'all treat us? Do you want to keep doing that? Do you want to keep talking to your people? Do you want to be courageous enough to talk to your people, to be an ally? And then, do we as Black people really trust it? There's that as well, right? I am always side-eyeing it personally. I always question the motive. But nevertheless, sometimes it's nice to hear somebody who doesn't look like us speaking out for us. It's just a trust issue. It's just that you're towing the line, and what are you really doing here? Nevertheless, I do appreciate her coming on camera and talking about that and saying that she feels safe in Black spaces. The question is, why can't we feel safe in any space? Think about that. In the meantime, let me know what you all think about this. Drop your comments in the chat. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share this content. Until next time, I